I'm Noodle Yeti, and this is the 15th part in a series where we build a city called Westdale. This one is actually going to be primarily focused on traffic and how to resolve some of the issues we are experiencing. So, before this episode, I had no plan and no idea what I wanted to do, so I was just kind of sitting here looking at the city. And when I was looking at the traffic view, at one point it actually dipped down into the 70% for traffic. And I noticed that there was a couple reasons for that. We get out of this view and we come over here to our warehousing. There's two areas over here that are causing our traffic to dip down very low every now and again. Well, actually three. We got these grain silos here. And then we have all of these lumber storage buildings. Those ones are. And then this one specifically, the commercial zone goods warehouse here. All of these, or the combination of those three, is causing these huge waves of trucks coming into the city to import things and also export. So we're going to need to resolve this issue definitely first right away. But before we even get into that, there's actually one thing we can do to help out with traffic. Go over here into our city policies, city planning, encourage biking. Because if you look at our roads, on all of our main roads, we already have all of these bike lanes everywhere. So why not help people or encourage people to bike more, get them out of their cars, less cars on the road. I think it would be great. Now, of course, there are a lot of things that we kind of need to think about if we're going to encourage biking. For instance, if we look at these roundabouts around where the freeways are, there's no way for the people on bikes to get from one of these other roads on the roundabout to the other one. So we'll have to think about adding bike paths around these, as well as in these neighborhood areas themselves. They can ride their bikes on sidewalks and regular pedestrian paths, but they prefer to ride them on bike lanes and bike paths like this over here, because they can go at a much higher speed. So I'm thinking I'm going to go around town, upgrade a lot of the residential roads to have bike lanes on them as well, and then put some ways for bikes to get around the roundabouts. So yeah, I will be right back. So I went around town and added just a few more bike roads than I actually initially wanted. I didn't do any of them in the industry areas simply because, well, you know, they're industry areas. I mean, yeah, sure, people can ride their bikes to town, or bikes to work, but I think it'll be all right. I just wanted to increase the accessibility around all the neighborhoods. All right, so now that I think we've gotten all of the bike lanes throughout the city, I actually wanted to talk about one of the unintended side effects of all encouraging biking and all of the bike lanes that I've just put throughout the city. One of the requirements for City Hall is 3,000 people per week using public transportation. Since we've done this, that number is going to go down because now there's going to be more people choosing to ride their bikes instead of walking to a local bus stop or something, because it might turn out to be a little bit faster. I believe last episode we were around somewhere between 2,400 and 2,500 for City Hall, for public transportation. I have a feeling this is going to definitely lower that quite a bit. So it's definitely going to be quite a bit longer before we get City Hall, but I think that's okay. Alright, so now I think we can actually get into what I was talking about at the beginning with these warehousing over here. So if we look at warehousing, I'm going to look at it from kind of this top-down view here. We have 3 entrances on the right and 1 entrance on the left. This one on the left is the one that gives them access to the cargo train terminal and also the forestry district and the toll road that takes them all the way down to the commercial. There's actually so much traffic there that I was thinking about turning it into an overpass to bypass that main road completely. However, that would limit the number of entrances we have on that particular side. So I do think we need to think about how to get people into the warehousing area from that side, besides the toll road and forestry area. If we look on the right here, we can see that a lot of people are choosing to use this bottom entrance, and since it's so close to the other road and there's another junction so close after it, sometimes it really backs up. So personally, I was thinking about completely severing that connection and possibly putting like a pedestrian road there, just so that way at least law enforcement, fire, and medical services can still get through, but no vehicles or trucks can. As far as this middle one goes, I think I should also sever this one and turn it into a pedestrian road as well. And that's because it'll prevent all the trucks coming through on this right-hand side from being in conflict with the other trucks, with all the warehousing trucks that are trying to get out of this area. So I want the main way on the right-hand side to be this top road. And I was actually considering pushing it all the way through so that way there's another connection on the left. To do that, I was actually just going to sever this connection up here and just move it down a little bit to be in line with this road. As far as the left-hand side connection, I was actually considering this road that the printing press is on, just pushing it all the way through and connecting it up to the road, which would be okay since this one would now become an overpass. And I think that would be just fine, because then they can turn left into here or right and make a U-turn over here to get into the warehouse area. We still want plenty of accessibility in here, just to get vehicles moving around. Now, as far as this lumber yard goes, there's not a whole lot of space over here. And I was thinking, if we get out of this and we actually look at this, you could see for this small log yard, it has 5 out of 12 trucks in use, and this one has 0 out of 12 trucks in use. I was thinking about just deleting these ones completely. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that now. Deleting this sawdust storage that has only 1% full with 0 out of 15 trucks in use. Turning this one from empty to fill. And then putting down a different one over here. I was thinking about going with this wood chip storage. We're going to have to pause the game real quick. Put it down. And then set this to empty. And then this one will be the one that they all send their goods to, and it will export their goods all throughout the city. And now I actually want to move this one over here, and since it is planed timber, I'm completely okay with moving it over into this forestry area here. And that will give us that 1 unit of separation, which will allow us to upgrade this road in the middle to a 4-unit wide road. As far as this commercial zone good building goes, this small one, I think we're actually going to need to upgrade it a lot. I think the small warehouse is absolutely way too small. You can see we've got 16 out of 20 trucks in use. It's like 40% full and it's set to fill. So I have a feeling that all of these trucks you see over here are actually... Oh yeah, you can see all the influx of trucks coming from the cargo train terminal that are trying to come over here. And you can see even more that are trying to come from out of town just to try and keep this thing topped up. So I have to think about where I want to put the next warehouse. I am going to just demolish this one because this one and this one to the left are too close to this 4-unit wide, or this 2-unit wide road to upgrade it to a 4-unit wide. Just move those crops out of the way real quick. So yeah, go ahead and, or I'm going to take a minute here to think about where I want the large warehouse to go. So yeah, I will be right back. Give me a second. I'm going to think about it and then I'll just go ahead and jump into it. So I've gotten the roads in this area updated and upgraded. Got the overpass, got the through connection over here, the 2 connections on the right, the 1 connection, or sorry, from this angle it's the 2 connections on the left and the 1 on the right. I've actually done a couple other things as well, and I've also got the warehouses placed down over here on this end of town. I have 1 set to fill and 1 set to empty. As you can see, there's quite a few trucks coming in to try and top off this warehouse on the left here, and we still have 34 out of 40 trucks in use. That's kind of scary, which means we're going to go through these waves where we're just still going to get these mass amount of trucks importing to this one warehouse. But I think that's a little bit more manageable than having them constantly come in trying to top off a small warehouse. Our traffic was pretty bad at first over here, but I decided to run an experiment, and I know this is very dangerous. I've completely turned off every single possible junction throughout the city, so now every single person is now basically reliant on yielding to one another. But you know what? I think it might have an effect on it. If we come in here, oh nope, we are definitely still in the low 80s. I think something else we could do was, when I was doing all that, going around doing the junctions, I noticed that this particular industry area only has 1 way in and out of it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And one of the things I was thinking about was having a way to get out right over here. You might be thinking, well, that's 2 junctions really close to one another. I really don't want the trucks to come out over here on this side, and I've kind of already set up this road to be a thoroughfare, or a through route, a through route all the way through down to City Hall. Shouldn't have done that. I should have maybe pulled it away from the neighborhood or kept some space, because these are supposed to be some nicer homes over here, and I really don't want the trucks to be driving right up next to their house here. So kind of messed myself up there, but it's okay. So let's go ahead and fix this up over here. Alright, so while I added that road in, I decided to take a look at the districts in the area, and I noticed that this one with the heavy traffic ban was actually overlapping into this particular industry area, which might have been causing some problems. And then I decided to look around town a little bit, and it turned out that we had a lot of districts with heavy traffic bans that were overlapping onto a lot of our main roads, such as over here and over on this road as well. So I just went through, cleaned everything up, and I realized that I still don't have heavy traffic bans in quite a few other places. So I'm going to go around and get all those set up just to prevent trucks from driving where they're not supposed to be. All right, there we go. So I've got all the districts set up with the appropriate heavy traffic bans and all the like. So one thing I was noticing while I was fixing the roads was that this warehouse over here and these two over here would complain about the lack of plastics every now and again. And oh my goodness, that is a lot of post trucks. What in the world? Oh well. Oh, yep, there you go. See, lack of plastics. So one thing I was thinking to help out with that was to actually go in here and actually give our warehouse, or sorry, all of our industries the appropriate policies to go through, add in improved logistics, advanced automation, and personally I'm actually okay with doing improved work safety. It's going to be $1 redo per worker, but I think we're okay. I think the last time I checked we're averaging around 14,000 a week, so I think we can go ahead and add all of these policies into every industry area and be completely okay. That should improve our production of plastics as well as all of the other resources. Ooh, actually now that I think about it, we might not want to do the improved stuff for the forestry industry, because they're the ones who cause a lot of traffic in this particular warehousing area. But yeah, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is actually commercial goods in general, because I really don't like the way that we get these huge waves of truck coming in to top off this large warehouse or any of our commercial warehousing. And that led me to do a little bit of research on this. I'll go ahead and leave the link to it in the description below from the Paradox wiki. And what I'm going to be doing next is actually, for industry, I'm going to be doing the IT cluster. So if you don't know what that is or how that affects commercial goods, the IT cluster offices, I believe, are the only offices that produce a commercial good. And what's so good about that is that this particular commercial good does not need to be transported in a vehicle, which means their goods just get automatically teleported to the commercial building or the warehouse. So it'll prevent these huge influx of trucks that come in trying to drop off at this particular warehouse over here. And it'll also reduce the number of trucks going around town dropping commercial goods off. But unfortunately, if we look down at our demand meter at the bottom, we have barely any industry demand and we have more residential demand. I thought about it for a little bit and I actually want to put it in all over here in this green belt, both residential and IT cluster. I had originally thought about turning this three-way highway interchange into a four-way interchange and bringing one of those ways in over here to the other side. I thought about it for a while, and to to me, this interchange looks really good. I think it looks beautiful, and I don't think that there's any way that I can add a fourth direction into this without ruining it. I'm just not that skilled of a interchange builder, and I also don't have mods to do things like move it, or what are they called, like the parallel road tool and things like that. I don't have any of that, so I can't make it as good looking as the original map maker did with this. I'm just not skilled enough, and I don't have the tools. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and lay out all the roads in this area here and start getting some things zoned in. I will be right back. Got the roads laid out, and I've at least got some of the essentials over here. I'm not extremely happy with the road layout on the left for the IT cluster area, but I think it will do, and I think it'll be okay. So one thing I do remember is that the IT cluster happens to be very tall, so I was thinking about putting a skyscraper in there from the Skyscrapers DLC. I think it would be a good way to increase their leisure, as well as including a little bit of height with their buildings. I do want to pick a smaller skyscraper, and any of the IT cluster buildings that come up that are way too tall, I'm going to go ahead and bulldoze those so we don't get anything ridiculously high up. Because if we look at our, like these office buildings here, these two really tall ones, I believe that's about the average height of these IT cluster buildings, and they can get way taller than that as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick out which skyscraper I want and get this place zoned in. All right, so we've got these growing in now, and I think these buildings look absolutely incredible. I really like the way they're designed. I like some of the features on them. If we get out of this view and we start going over here, see they got like these little balconies on top and little picnic tables and stuff up there, and like even got like little gardens on top. I think that's really cool. I realize we have way more of a residential demand, so I'm going to come over here and go ahead and zone all of these in, and hopefully that will speed up the process with the office area filling out. For over here, I've just decided to go with the plain default high density, so nothing fancy. Alright, so it looks like this whole area is now zoned in. I'm not quite sure how I feel about having these really tall buildings along the outside. I feel like I'd want these ones to be shorter to help block the wind for the ones behind them. I feel like since they're so tall, if any strong winds came this way, it might be damaging to the building, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I actually don't know anything about these topics. It's just where my mind went immediately when looking at these tall buildings along the outside edge. But I think it should be okay, at least. I mean, at least in city skylines, it'll be okay. So yeah, I decided to go with this particular skyscraper on this side because I really like the way it looks. And if you look down at the bottom of it, kind of like it's narrow and it grows out wide and then it goes narrow again. I like it a lot. I think it's really cool. I think it looks neat. Maybe it was like a project from the trade school or something. Their engineers and whatnot had to figure out how to build it maybe. And over here, I decided to keep one of the really tall IT cluster buildings. I was really tempted to bulldoze it, but because I wanted the tallest building in this area to be the other skyscraper. But I think it's actually okay. And I think the normal skyscraper in here just kind of breaks it up with something a little bit different, something a little bit bigger. And I kind of like it. So yeah, these will help clear up our traffic just a little bit by automatically teleporting commercial goods to commercial zones and warehouses. And I bet if we look over here, and we go into here, it has 0 out of 40 trucks in use right now for fill, which means that it's not sending goods anywhere. So that means that our commercial or our IT cluster over there is currently taking care of all of our commercial demand. If we come over here, this one's set to empty. 40 out of 40, so it's struggling to keep up right now. For all those IT cluster buildings are just sending their goods over here and it's trying to export as fast as it can. So yeah, our commercial goods should be taken care of for quite a while now. And I kind of want to take a look at our traffic, see what it's like. We are in the high 80s now. That is absolutely incredible. It's what we were hoping to see. So we went from low 80s to high 80s. Part of that I think is the bikes, and a part of it I think really is that IT cluster just completely removing all of those trucks off the road and just having their goods automatically teleport around the city. And as for the guy who commented about watching those grow, he had also mentioned something about pathways at the end of cul-de-sacs and things like that. I don't really have a whole lot of cul-de-sacs in the city, but there are a lot of places where I could add pathways to help them get from one spot to another a little bit quicker if they're walking. But I'm not going to do that this time. I'll save that for the next episode, and in the next episode is when I plan on going and adding a lot more trees and decorations throughout all the completed areas. So yeah, sorry about the delay on this episode, just to give you the reason why. I had some audio issues where I had actually recorded this entire episode and then I realized my microphone was all messed up. It was constantly clipping and doing some other stuff. So hopefully this time around it's not doing all of that. The reason why I was doing that is because I had messed around. I wanted to play with my audio equipment. I wanted to just see what would happen when I twisted knobs, what it would sound like, changing EQ, changing all sorts of things, adding filters. And I had a lot of fun, but unfortunately I was an idiot and I didn't take pictures of my equipment, so I don't know where all the knobs were facing and whatnot. But I ran an experiment. I actually asked ChatGPT on how to set each of these equipment pieces up and what the order it wanted me to plug them in with, and I just kind of want to see how this sounds with that AI's knowledge, I guess. So yeah, if it sounds good, thank ChatGPT. If it sounds horrible, blame ChatGPT. Yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate your viewership. We'll be decorating the city, or at least decorating the completed areas next time, so I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Alright, while I was recording the ending cinematics, it looks like we hit Grand City. So, it doesn't really look like we get much. We got a third loan, solar power, university baseball park, waste transfer, waste processing, and a couple bus and metro hubs. So, yeah, that's pretty neat. Anyways, thank you for watching, and back to the outro.